Hey everyone, it's Colin. How's it going? All of a sudden, YouTubers are facing major challenges getting their videos monetized. So this time, let's talk about just what the hell is going on with YouTube ad revenue. Okay, so in order to understand what's going on now in late August 2017, we need to actually go back several months. We need to go back to the spring of 2017. And here's basically what started all of this. A whole bunch of advertisers seemingly realized in a hurry that a lot of their ads were being run on videos on YouTube that they didn't necessarily agree with. It, of course, started with seeing these ads running on things like extremist content, hate speech, generally objectionable kind of stuff that any advertiser wouldn't really want their ad dollars going towards. And I don't blame them for that. But it's also kind of snowballed from there to advertisers not wanting to have their products represented alongside videos that don't necessarily speak to their brand. You know, maybe it's a competing product or just a mentality or a message that the advertiser doesn't agree with. And all of this kind of wrapped up together led a lot of advertisers to pull revenue from YouTube. They just stopped running ads or they scaled them back in dramatic fashion. And this hurt YouTube pretty decently financially because remember, YouTube makes its money off of ad revenue. And all of this combined turned into this concept that got the name the Adpocalypse. That happened again kind of in the spring, early summer of 2017. And it's slowly been getting better. YouTube, immediately started making promises about they're going to crack down on objectionable content. They're going to pull advertising from it. They're going to do what they need to do in order to win advertisers' trust back. And that is exactly what YouTube needed to do. Because again, if YouTube doesn't make money, then there's not much of a future for the platform. So YouTube behind the scenes started working on this, and it took a while, but we started to see advertiser revenue coming back. And for the vast, vast majority of people who uploaded videos, all the more impact that they really saw was maybe just a dip or decline in their ad revenue coming in. Maybe their CPM went down a bit. Maybe they just weren't running as many ad impressions. Basically, YouTubers weren't making as much money, but their videos were still being monetized. They were still making money off of them. Everything seemed like business as usual. And for the vast majority of YouTubers, they're kind of used to this. I did an episode quite a few podcasts ago, basically talking about how YouTubers make money. You may want to check that episode out in order to get a little bit more context as to, what we go through as content creators when it comes to making money. But seeing, rises and falls in ad revenue is not something new to a content creator. We see it all the time. Some months just generally get more views than others. So everything seemed pretty normal, right? The Adpocalypse was an issue and we as content creators understood it, but it never really directed us individually. It never had a major impact on us, basically. It was felt, but it wasn't direct and it wasn't targeted. And it just seemed to affect everybody equally. So we figure, okay, well, we'll get through this issue and then no big deal. But now things are different. So as I'm filming this, it is late August 2017. It's about 1 week since this issue really started, rearing its ugly head. So by the time this podcast goes live, we're going to be about 2 weeks on. I don't know what's going to happen in the time between when I shoot this and when this episode goes live, but I can tell you what has happened in the last week since when I started noticing this problem and now when I'm filming it. Basically, here's what I saw. I uploaded 2 videos on a Sunday evening. One was a podcast episode, and then one was an episode that was going to go live on the following Tuesday, right? The upload went as normal, right? You upload the video, you wait forever while it processes. I go in and do some settings, tweaks. I schedule the videos to go live at a certain day and time. I go through setup, my end screens and any cards that I want to throw in there, and everything all looked just fine. Later in the evening on that Sunday, I go back into Creator Studio on YouTube to respond to comments and check various settings, that sort of thing. And I noticed that both of those videos had become demonetized. And the flag on them said that it wasn't appropriate for all advertisers. And that didn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, I was aware of what that was kind of all about. That's generally, what they say if you were to upload content that really just is objectionable, right? It's the same kind of message that you would get if you were to upload, something that promoted extremism or hate speech, something like that. But both of the videos that I uploaded were completely advertiser friendly, completely innocuous, didn't run afoul of any of the advertise friendly guidelines that YouTube itself has published. Yet both videos in quick succession got flagged and had monetization pulled from them. Now, one thing that is helpful that YouTube has been doing is, one, they're making it fairly obvious when that happens. You can see that right in the video manager. You don't have to go digging into the settings for every video. So the icon changed for those two videos, and I was, apprised of them right away. The other thing that YouTube is letting you do is basically request a manual review of that ruling, because apparently all of that is processed automatically. So I requested that manual review of both of those videos. One of those got cleared in 24 hours. That ended up being the episode from the previous Tuesday about the clone Sega Genesis console review. I woke up the next morning, checked my email. I'd gotten an email from YouTube saying, yeah, we reviewed it. You're good to go. No worries. You're fine. Okay. But the podcast episode was still flagged. And so I requested a manual review of it as well on Monday night. I didn't get an email until Thursday afternoon from YouTube saying that the video had been reviewed and it was good to go. And that really started to make me nervous, because that video was going to go live on Friday morning. And why it made me nervous about the timing is because the vast majority of a video's views happen when the video is released, right? It's not necessarily a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later. Yes, you can have videos kind of get a second wind or become popular all of a sudden or whatever. But for most content creators, myself included, the videos see the vast majority of their views within the first 24 to 48 hours. And so if your video isn't monetized right off the bat, you're missing out significantly on revenue. And that's not revenue that you can get back, because if it's not monetized, ads aren't running on it, or not as many ads are running on it. It's not like YouTube is still running the ads and then deciding whether it wants to pay you or not. There's no way for YouTube to retroactively go back and give you that money that you otherwise would have had while the video is held for review. So if you don't get things squared away when that video goes live, when it comes to monetization, you're missing out on money. Now, for me personally, that's not a huge deal. I mean, it's not a deal breaker because this is a part-time thing for me. My channel is nowhere near big enough for it to be a full-time job for me. So it's a hobby, but at the same time, I put a lot of hours into running this hobby, so much so that I really kind of consider it a second job at this point. But even then, I've gone into this with the mentality of just wanting to have the channel be able to pay its own expenses, right? As long as I'm not personally coughing up the money to buy all the products that I want to review or buy all of the equipment that I need to run the channel or all the ongoing costs, that sort of thing. Basically, if the channel can support itself, then I'm willing to, basically give my time, make that sacrifice to keep running the channel, to keep putting in the hours to make the content. So I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for, fair compensation for my videos. And that's where I was starting to get a bit nervous with the whole, demonetization thing of 2 videos that I uploaded in quick succession. However, there are a lot of other YouTubers who have been hit by this significantly. And some of them are questioning whether they even want to stay on YouTube. I've read stories, especially on social media, of people who have, woken up or checking their page and found that vast swaths of their episodes have suddenly become demonetized. Like 30, 40, 50%, significant numbers. And these are people who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers and hundreds, if not thousands, of videos. That's a huge chunk of revenue. And those channels are big enough where they generally rely on that ad revenue as like their only source of income, right? They do it full time. And yes, there are options for diversifying income. And, that previous podcast episode, I cover those. But the gist of it is you can diversify income all you want. You can turn to Patreon. You can sell merch. You can, do all sorts of other things to try and make additional money if you're a content creator. But no matter what, the bulk of the ad revenue is going to be where your money comes from, right? It's just regular YouTube ads on the videos that you upload. So to see that a significant portion of your videos have suddenly become demonetized, even ones that are older, is a big shock, and it's really scary. And some of those creators were able to go through and request reviews of all those videos, and they started to get cleared up, and the vast majority of them got cleared. But other ones noticed that there were certain types of videos that they couldn't get cleared, that are staying demonetized. And pieces are starting to come together in terms of what happened, what is going on now. Why did things suddenly change back from the initial Adpocalypse issue in April? YouTube hasn't said anything formally about what's going on here, what, if any, new criteria are, that sort of deal. But people have started to kind of figure out what's going on. And it basically comes down to YouTube is kind of ratcheting up the stakes to show to advertisers how serious it is about wanting to run ad-friendly content, that it's actually starting to cut out large sections of its own previously ad-friendly content in order to do so. This has affected the gaming channels the most. So I've seen and read and heard stories about people who do Let's Plays, and they've been hit severely. Or anyone showing even game footage in a video getting hit severely. Also, stories about people who don't necessarily use the cleanest language in their episodes. Maybe the content itself, maybe the video game that they're playing or the video that they're showing on screen is totally innocuous, but maybe they play it fast and loose with the language. And, YouTube is able to catch all of this stuff. And so those are starting to get flagged. What it's basically coming down to is violent video games are becoming unwelcome on YouTube. First-person shooters are a big one. Anything with gore, anything with just lots and lots of rampant violence in it, it seems, are genres that YouTube are cracking down on and pulling monetization from. I've heard people conjecturing that basically if a game is rated M, you're kind of going to be screwed over if you upload a video like that. But I've also even heard that some people who are playing games rated T for teen are getting hit by this pretty severely. Now, I understand and agree that YouTube needs to do what it needs to do in order to secure ad revenue, right? I'm okay with that concept. However, I don't necessarily agree that cutting out ad revenue from games rated T or M, or even have a lot of harsh language in them, is necessarily appropriate, because I think there are still going to be a decent number of advertisers, not all of them of course, but a decent number of advertisers who will still want to advertise to those markets, right? The people who play mature rated games still need to go out and buy products. And even if the mass market retailers, people who sell, kind of your general staples, or, advertising for large big box stores, that sort of thing, maybe they don't want to run their ads on that kind of video anymore, but there's still an opportunity for lots of other companies, maybe companies who make gaming related products, maybe software manufacturers, wanting to promote their own new game that may be similar to a game that you're watching on a Let's Play or a review. Those companies, maybe they're selling mature rated games themselves. Why would advertising get pulled unequivocally from all of these videos? So, there's a lot of frustration there, because it's a very kind of blanket thing that's happening. It's either you have advertising or you don't. There's really not a whole lot of kind of dialing in the right type of advertising based on the content that you're uploading. The bigger issue is exactly what happened to me. Videos that should not be getting demonetized are. Both of the videos that I uploaded, completely innocuous. And I don't go into every video thinking I need to make my videos advertiser friendly. That is not a factor when I create content. But I do try to make sure that the content that I do create is generally going to be acceptable by a wide audience, right? I don't want little kids, hearing the wrong things from me. I could totally go off during this episode. I'm really trying to restrain myself, because I've got a lot of really choice words for YouTube right now, as I'm sure a lot of other content creators do too. I could just start swearing up a storm. It would make me feel better, and a lot of you would probably be okay with it, but I purposefully try to keep my content relatively clean for the vast majority of viewers, because I don't know who's watching, and I can't control who's watching. The last thing that I want is to have some little kid watching one of my videos and I start going off using language that isn't appropriate for them to hear, and maybe that kid's parent walks by and hears it and says, no, you're never allowed to watch those videos ever again. I don't want to get myself in that position. But to have two of my videos where I'm talking about, again, completely safe stuff. One of them was a clone video game console, right? It was a hardware review. The other one, I was talking about electric cars, right? It was a podcast episode just talking about electric cars. There's absolutely no violence involved with either of those topics at all, unless you consider Sonic the Hedgehog, overly violent. Or I think I used a very quick clip of Street Fighter in that Genesis clone review. Just a few seconds long. Street Fighter is a clean fighting game, right? There's no blood involved in it. It's not really offensive to most people. Neither of those games are. Sonic, anything else. So clearly there's something screwed up with YouTube's algorithm as to how they're flagging these videos and how they're not. And that's really frustrating, because as this issue becomes more pervasive and happens to more and more content creators, what do you think is going to happen when we go to try and request those manual reviews? Well, a manual review is exactly that, right? It's not clicking the button and having the computer algorithm run through it again. You're basically asking, can a human being please watch this video and confirm that, I think this is legit for monetization. And there was a big difference in time between my first request for review, where it basically happened within about 12 hours, that video was cleared, the Genesis one. But then it took another 3.5, 4 days for the podcast episode to get cleared. I don't want to know how long it would take now. If I had another video get flagged, how long it would take to get through that process. So it's frustrating to think that potentially I'm going to have to go and request review on every single episode. And that not only do I have to do that, but I also have to work so far in advance to be able to get those episodes cleared before they need to go live, in order to get things queued up in time so that I can have the videos monetized before they actually become viewable by a wider audience. There's also the big worry about videos just suddenly becoming demonetized. It's something that I have to check for now pretty frequently, where thankfully YouTube gives you a tool where you can sort your videos by which ones are monetized and which ones are not. So it's, not the hardest thing in the world to take a quick glance and confirm that everything that should be monetized is. But maybe a video is at the height of its popularity. Maybe a video made it through monetized the first 24, 48 hours, after it went live, but all of a sudden YouTube decides to flag it. And now I've got to wait for how long while that video is racking up views for it to get cleared. It becomes really, really frustrating. And it's frustrating for me, and I'm not doing this full time. I'm not uploading multiple videos a week, anything like that. I can only imagine what it would be like for a full-time YouTuber who has to rely on that money for their income, right? To basically be worrying that, your next paycheck is going to be significantly smaller due to no fault of your own has got to just be terrifying. And I have nothing but sympathy for all of the full-time YouTubers and every YouTuber who is going through this and having to deal with that worry and having to deal with the extra work of keeping even tighter tabs on the status of their videos and maybe having to adjust their content, which is something we'll get to in a bit. So, there are some major ramifications to all of this happening. For full-time YouTubers, or at least Let's Players, there's a couple of options, right? You can maybe lean more on Twitch if you're doing, like live stream Let's Play kind of stuff, because Twitch seems to be, I don't want to say, less restricting, but it's a platform known for gaming. And there are lots of people who do lots of gaming on Twitch. And because there seems to be a lot of community support involved with Twitch, and it's not really advertised, it doesn't feel like it's so advertiser leaning in terms of revenue, that it's mostly you're live streaming and people donate money in real time. That could be a decent option for the live streamers to want to move over to Twitch. Patreon is another one, just saying screw it to ad revenue entirely is something that I've heard bantered about quite a bit. And for some YouTubers, it's worked really, really well. I'm not saying that they make more money off of Patreon than they do off of ad revenue. That's going to be highly dependent on their individual channel. But, maybe trying to get the word out about Patreon, maybe trying to work that system in a way, a bit better could lead to some stability in terms of that income. But it's never really going to be a full replacement. For a lot of people, I know they've been told, well, just try switching to a different platform. Try to say screw. A lot of people saying just screw YouTube and let's just go to, if not Twitch, then something like Vimeo or VidMe. Well, here's the big problem with that. Vimeo is much smaller than YouTube. And Vimeo isn't really the type of platform that I think is conducive to kind of subscriber-based short form videos, right? Everything that I've seen on Vimeo has been a bit longer form, and I think Vimeo as a commercial platform thrives best on selling, individual episodes, right? Maybe you create a hour-long documentary about something. On YouTube, you'd publish that on YouTube and you'd go after ad revenue. You'd try and get as many eyeballs on that video as you can to try and make as much money as you can off the ads. On something like Vimeo, instead, what I've seen a lot of people do is they'll upload it to Vimeo and they'll say, you know what, you can watch this video for $1 or $2 or whatever, right? They basically sell it. And Vimeo is really good about, giving creators control over letting people even download the videos. Maybe for your $2 or $3, you can download it and put it on your phone, your tablet. You can watch it on your TV, whatever device you want to watch it on. You have a file, an actual copy of it, and you can listen to it or watch it whenever you want. And so for longer form videos, I think that works really, really well. Short form, not so much. VidMe is a very interesting platform in that I don't know really of anyone who uses it. I mean, I've heard of content creators dabbling with it, and I don't even remember. This is how little attention I've paid to it. I think I've signed up for an account over on VidMe. I don't think I've uploaded anything. And if a creator has uploaded stuff, it's not getting very many views. And this is why, and this is really kind of the major frustration with this entire problem, and it's because YouTube is too big. YouTube is where the community is, right? If I were to say screw it to YouTube and bail and just upload everything to VidMe, my channel would become nothing, right? Hardly anybody would follow me over. And I know I've got some very dedicated and devoted fans, and that blows my mind, and I am incredibly appreciative. And I know some people would follow me over, but as I'm filming this, I've got 63,000 subscribers. I'm guessing that maybe 10% would follow me over to VidMe if I were to leave YouTube over something like this. And I think that's a very similar percentage that other content creators would see if they left. YouTube is really where the community is. It's the behemoth. It is the place to go if you want to watch online video that isn't like, something like Netflix, where it's a professionally, made kind of long running series, massive commercial with commercial success with, really well-known, well-paid actors, that sort of thing. Basically, if you aren't on Netflix, if you aren't on Hulu or any of the other kind of mass market platforms, you're on YouTube. That is where your best opportunity lies. So the frustration is we feel trapped. We can't go anywhere because trying to go anywhere else would pretty much lead to certain death. So what can we do? Well, we have to sit here and take it, basically. And that's the saddest thing. YouTube is so big and people rely on it so much that it can pull this kind of stuff and get away with it. YouTube has communicated nothing about all of this. There's been no official communication from YouTube saying, hey, we're going to start cracking down on these types of videos. Hey, these are the new criteria for videos. If you look up in YouTube help, they've got an article that talks about, well, what is advertiser friendly and what isn't. And it really just comes down to, is it something that people are going to object to? Is it that extremist content? Is it that hate speech kind of content? Is it stuff that's going to be considered obscene? Maybe excessive, colorful language, that sort of thing. But there's nothing specific about, first-person shooters aren't allowed. Games that are rated M, games that are rated T. These certain categories of videos are going to be scrutinized more than others. I've heard lots of outpouring from the gaming community who's been getting hit by this. I haven't heard so much from other types of YouTubers, the DIY YouTubers or the tech YouTubers. I haven't heard so much. Are they getting hit as badly as gaming YouTubers are? And what's more, why do videos that I upload that aren't even related to gaming, that electric car podcast episode, why did that get flagged? Just because I've uploaded videos about gaming before, even though I haven't done any sort of Let's Play kind of stuff, does that suddenly make me a target? Am I getting lumped in with the rest of these? You know, the lack of communication is one of the biggest things. I think a lot of YouTubers could understand, you know, maybe there need to be some more guidelines as to what's considered, you know, advertiser friendly and not. But if YouTube isn't even going to bother to tell us what those new criteria are, that's going to sow a lot of frustration, as we've been seeing. You know, some people say, well, maybe this is just a form of censorship. And, you know, censorship is a difficult term, I feel, to pin down because it has a lot to do with context. You know, I could go off on a complete other episode, and maybe I will someday, just about freedom of speech and what, like, the First Amendment here in the US means and what applies to it and all of that. But I can tell you this, in summary, is this censorship? No, not directly. YouTube is a private platform. You know, the company can do whatever it wants. It can say you're not allowed to upload videos with cats in them anymore. And that would be, you know, legally something that it could do. YouTube could get away with that. Would it make a lot of people unhappy? Absolutely. But it's YouTube's platform and people have to play by its rules. YouTube has said all along that it values, you know, various opinions and various topics and wants to spur conversation and all this kind of stuff. Basically, it's saying, go ahead and upload all the videos that you want about whatever topics you want. But then it's also saying, you know, but we may not advertise on them. We may not give you money for them. Which is a delicate thing. It's a tough balance to strike, to say, yes, upload whatever you want, but, you know, we may not pay you appropriately for all of it. And that really, I think, is where the frustration kind of comes down to, is things are changing, but nobody's telling us what or how, and they're not telling us what we now need to do to succeed. You know, are there entire categories of videos that I have to stay away from? Are there certain video games that I simply can't show on screen anymore? Are there certain words that I can't say? Any topics that I can't cover? To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if this episode itself became demonetized, simply because it's covering a controversial topic, which is actually one of the criteria that YouTube has in its guidelines about if you want to be monetized. You know, news material, things that show disasters and war and real effects on human beings may not be eligible for advertising because, again, you know, what advertiser is going to want to run an ad for, hey, buy our latest product thing, when you've just cut away from a scene showing this just very sad and unfortunate events that have happened to real people in real life. You know, let alone coming out of, you know, maybe 20 minutes of a live streamer or a Let's Player sitting there mowing down people in a first-person shooter, screaming obscenities over and over and over again. It's tough. It's a crap situation, and there is going to be no easy resolution to this one. You know, I think it's something we're just going to have to learn to accept. And we're going to have to figure it out for ourselves, what we're able to do and what not. I think there are some algorithm errors at play here. I don't think my podcast episode about electric cars should have gotten flagged. I think that was a goof. And I think we'll see some more goofs, especially with the rate that I've seen people getting their videos flagged, and then they've gone and requested review, and those reviews have come back and given them that monetization back, right? A certain percentage of videos are staying demonetized, and that's where we've got to do our homework to figure out, you know, what's the common elements among those so we can know to adjust or simply avoid that. But I do think things will slowly get better for content creators, but I don't think they're going to be the same ever again. I think we have a new normal that we have to get used to as YouTubers. And yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I understand the anger and I share it with all my fellow content creators. I've gotten hit too, granted, not to the same extreme that a lot of other very, very talented content creators have. But I'm right here with you, and hopefully YouTube will listen to us. And if nothing else, at least just communicate, because I think that's really the biggest frustration is we're going into all of this completely blind, not sure whether the video that we want to make is one that we can get away with. And, who wants to take that risk? Who wants to create a video that they're not sure will get monetized, whether, it'll be worth their time and effort to make? And I think we're all going to end up getting hit by that. I have no doubt that at some point I'll create a video that YouTube will deem not worthy of monetization. And you know what? I think we're occasionally just going to have to give them away. I'll end up just leaving that video uploaded. Okay, fine. Everybody, here is a free one. No ads on this one. Something like that. And as much as it sucks, we'll just have to adjust accordingly because YouTube is just too big to force them to do otherwise. So I am, of course, curious as to your thoughts. Are you a fellow content creator? Have you gotten hit by this? How badly have you gotten hit by this? Have you managed to get it relatively cleaned up on your channel so you're making money again? Or are you still really scared for your future? Are you still trying to wrestle with having a lot of your videos demonetized? Be sure to shout all of your thoughts down in the comments. Let's just try to be civil, okay? So, if you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. You could follow me on Twitter and Instagram at thisdoesnotcomp. And as always, thanks for watching.